What is up, folks? Welcome back to another live stream repair. Yes, we've got some, we still got some catching up to do here. Let's see, the first one up here is going to be from Alan. No power. After that, got a few here. Let's see. We'll go ahead and let Alan know they're up. Cool. Alan has been messaged. Let's find number 3458. Cool. I think we've messaged enough people. Let's get the rest of the names up on the screen. God, I'm tired. Alright, so after Gary, let's see, 3553, 3458, 3515. 3511. Oh, that's Patrick. So Erica, Patrick. And then 3553 X2. Alright. Oof, I'm out of it. If I didn't have so much to fix, I wouldn't, I'd take today off, but, gosh, I hate getting behind, so here we go. Yes, of course, we need our extra lights. There we go. So what have we got here? No lights, no power, no nothing other than, other than a couple of watts from the wall. Let's get it fixed. Oh, I was using it, sorry.
What?
This laundry detergent.
What?
The
Oh,
laundry
no.
detergent. Yeah, sorry. Oh boy. There we go. Oh yes. Welcome, Stefan. Welcome, Nivernal. Welcome back, folks. Oh. Trying to be a little quiet because the kid's still sleeping. Come on. This piece of crap. Everything checks out there. We'll replace this with a solid rubber one when we're putting it back together. here we are, the source of most of the HomePod's problems, the amplifier board. We're going to start with a little bit of maintenance. These 4 filters love to go bad and cause death farts and all sorts of bass issues. So we're going to get those replaced first up, and then we'll replace the diode that failed and caused their power issues. And now for our dead diode causing our power issues. Sloth Bear. Welcome, welcome. Sorry you couldn't catch yours live, but I like the way you put it. Welcome. Here's that fresh subwoofer gasket that we don't really talk about too much, but there it is. We always replace those whenever we take these apart. Everything is nice and sealed. I can tell by the way it is. Also, it doesn't make any whistling or chuffing sounds when I push the woofer in. Kurt, what is up? Welcome, welcome. You joined in at a good time. We got plenty of fits for you here today.
I'm having trouble connecting to. I'm having trouble connecting.
Alright. Looks like I need to make that volume button line up a little better. Aside from that, it is fixed and ready to go. So, we're moving on now to number 3458 with no power. After that, we're going to look at number 3547. What have we got here? Probably the same symptoms. No lights, no power. Couple of watts from the wall. That's the usual all symptoms for the same dead diode. Let's get it apart and get it fixed. Yeah, multi-room audio is really great because obviously you can walk around the house and you keep the continuity with what you're listening to. But the major, and as far as I can think of, unfixable fundamental flaw with multi-room audio is no matter how in sync you might make everything, it only, it all depends, it's all relative on where you're standing. Because, and by that I mean if you can kind of hear in the background the music from the other rooms, then it's going to sound slightly delayed, even though if you stand in the middle of the two rooms, they'll sound fine there. But that's just a fundamental drawback with multi-room audio. It's only going to sound perfectly in sync everywhere at one spot. Now, I imagine you could come up with some kind of smart, intelligent workaround that uses some form of presence sensing so that it adjusts the delays between each of the rooms based on where you are. But that would only work for one person. If you've got multiple people in the house, forget about it. But in general, it's good enough that it doesn't, like, I only sometimes notice it if I'm walking around the house actively. The benefits far outweigh the minor things like that I notice in passing here and there. I'm quiet because the kid's sleeping. Kurt, do you have your 2.4 gigahertz and your 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi on separate SSIDs, or do you have them showing under the same Wi-Fi name? That's a pretty common fix that people do, is they name the 2.4 gigahertz one thing and the 5 gigahertz another thing, and they stick the HomePods on the 5 gigahertz and keep them on there. Another thing, if you've got mesh Wi-Fi, don't rely on the mesh BS. For each access point, you want to make sure that they have their own dedicated Ethernet backhaul. You don't want multiple access points using each other to network. It's cool, it's nice, but it doesn't work out very well very often. Yeah, split those SSIDs up. Stick them on the 5 gigahertz. Lock the homepods to their closest access point so that they're not roaming between access points and switching between the closest access point and then the furthest one on their own for whatever godforsaken reason. I notice quite often a lot of my devices tend to connect to the access point that's further away instead of the one I'm sitting right underneath. Now, there shouldn't be any problems with splitting your SSIDs up between the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz into your HomeKit network, so long as you don't isolate. There's a setting called network isolation, and it's pretty rare for an access point to let you block the traffic between the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz bands. You'd need some pretty fancy enterprise stuff, and you'd really need to know what you were doing in order to get that to work that way. But basically, your HomeKit stuff should work no different with everything split up or not. That said, when you go to split up your SSIDs, of course you have to rename them, so anything that was previously connected to your Wi-Fi now needs to get reconnected to the new network, and most of your smart home stuff is going to be on the 2.4 gigahertz. So it's possible when you tried it last time, maybe things just didn't reconnect to the new SSID. Yeah, and the other thing is if you split the SSIDs up instead of combine them, then you don't need to do any band steering. You just connect to the Wi-Fi network that you want it to connect to. If you want it on the 2.4, you connect it to the 2.4. If you want it on the 5, you connect it to the 5. But this is how that's how I do all of my stuff. I have them split up, and I don't have any issues with my HomeKit. I would be willing to bet that things generally work better when they're split up like that, instead of relying on the access points to band steer intelligently. Okay, we're gonna get these filters replaced. Y'all know they go bad, they cause death farts and all sorts of base issues. Oh yes, indeed, I sell refurbished HomePods. I only sell refurbished first gens. No one deals with the second gens. But you can check them out on my website. Just go to my website and then click the shop link to get an idea. Orders are all done via email. You gotta email me once you know what you want. I don't have anything fancy. You gotta email me. But I have safe and secure ways for you to pay, so you don't have to worry about that. Alright. What might work, Kurt? What might work when you rename the SSIDs? Rename the 2.4 gigahertz band to be the same as what your Wi-Fi currently is. And then rename the 5 gigahertz something different, you know, dash 5 gigahertz. That way, you only need to reconnect the stuff that you want on the 5 gigahertz band, because in all likeliness, most of your HomeKit devices are going to be on the 2.4. So you can leave them alone and then just worry about everything you want to move. That might work. It might also cause weird issues. A Tesla and a Rivian. Interesting. I mean, Teslas aren't awful cars. They've just got a lot of awful rep with the, surrounding them right now. But the Rivian, ooh, Rivians are nice. I would love a Rivian, but I would settle for, heck, I'd settle for an electric Hyundai even. I've seen those things, those are nice. And they charge so fast. Yeah, and frankly, that's what most people that own a Tesla, it's just a car. Most people aren't terminally online. I mean, unless you've got your head buried in the dirt, you know what's going on. But at the end of the day, most people are going to care more about being able to commute to work and back efficiently than what a bunch of people are saying online. Agree or disagree with whatever's going on as much as you want. That's just what the average person's probably thinking. I guess same goes for the Cybertruck too. Gosh, I don't like the thing, but a lot of people that bought those were just they're just looking for an electric truck, and they were familiar with Tesla and the big name and their first electric truck. Heck yeah, hop on it. But such is. We can only hope that things turn around and get better. Personally, I'm probably not going to get my hands on any kind of fully electric vehicle until I can get one for less than $6,000 cash in hand off Craigslist or something like that. Those are the cars I'm into. Under $10,000 used and with 100,000 miles or more. Yeah, it sucks how much, charging has gotten. I'm seeing, 30, 40, 50 plus cents a kilowatt hour. That's insane. I'm just gonna keep putting around with what I've got until, like I said, I can get an AV for, 46 grand used. Dead battery? I don't care, I'll swap that sucker out myself. I've swapped engines before. I can swap a battery pack. What? High voltage? High voltage, schmy voltage. I'll just jump in the air whenever I'm touching anything. Yeah, there's no excuse for whatever Dodge did with the Charger EV. If they cut the price in half, it would be an excellent sedan, and it'd be an excellent EV sedan. But they're charging too much and trying to make it what it isn't. Trying to appeal to the wrong crowd with it. And didn't do the right job if they were. MKBHD, love him or hate him, he has a pretty decent review on the Charger EV. Alright.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. For more info. I'm having trouble.
Very good, very nice. On to the next one. Number 3547 here. No power. After this, we're gonna look at Gary. No lights, no power. Couple of watts from the wall. Y'all know the drill. Here we go. Yeah, that's why I don't drive a car that's newer than me. My newest car is 35 years old. My wife's car is a 2015, but that's still 10 years old. But anything that I want to do or add to it, I have to get coded by the Volvo dealership, of course. I can't, like, for example, it's got everything that you need for a backup camera. All you need to do is buy the physical camera and plug it into the back of the car. And then take it to the Volvo dealership and pay them $300 to code it into the engine computer. Or into the body computer. Dumb. Yeah, and you can change the behavior of the, like with the key fob, you can remotely roll all the windows down and up. BMWs have some nice coding features. What if I want to play my music videos while I'm driving for my kid? What if the passenger wants to watch something, Stefan? No, you can't get Instagram Reels on it, Stefan. That's dangerous. Bridging the brake wire is a kind of a workaround, but it kind of breaks other functionality that relies on knowing when you're actually pushing on the brake pedal. Yeah, well, Japan's a lot smaller of a country than America, and they tend to take driving itself a little more seriously. If I'm not mistaken, they have fewer accidents per capita than we do. So I can't get upset about other countries that are, frankly, better than we are at driving, having better privileges. You look at Germany; they got the Autobahn, and you'd think it wouldn't be so safe, but it is. It's inherently safe just by the way that everyone drives. Rules of the road. But I've never been there. I could be totally wrong in parroting this information. Yeah, I mean, you guys were here last time I went off about it, but it's people on their phones that have almost killed me in a car accident twice now. I wouldn't call it a car accident. That implies that they didn't, they didn't have a choice in the matter. They chose to drive distracted. I call it gross negligence. And if I catch you driving distracted, I will be happy to remove that distraction for you. That'll do it. Let's get this back together. You don't have to take your eyes off the road to interact with a capacitive screen climate controls. You don't just like smear your hand all over the thing blindly until it does what you want it to do. You guys are silly. You must adapt and overcome, or this world will destroy you. It will progress faster than you can keep up. Jesus, take the wheel? Nah, Jesus, please change the climate for me. I got the wheel. You figure out these freaking controls, man. It's like a spaceship up in here. You know what would be nice? Would be an easy accessory to make. Would be some kind of OBD or Bluetooth. You know those like $40 screens that you can like stick to your dashboard and give your old car radio CarPlay? Imagine that, but instead of a screen, it's just a couple of physical knobs and buttons, and you can map them to do whatever you want them to do to your car. So you can have one for fan speed, one for climate or one for temperature, one for AC on and off, and you can stick it wherever you want in the car. So that way you've got a set of physical climate controls. Alternatively, you could have something like, you know, those joysticks that you can stick to your screen to give yourself like an on-screen joystick on your phone. Something like that, but for the screen of the car. Just sits over top where the climate controls go. But that assumes that the UI doesn't change and move around based on what you're doing. As soon as it moves somewhere else, you gotta move the button too. Yeah, I would just avoid anything Tesla for the foreseeable future. Let them figure their stuff out first, and then maybe if they get rid of Elon, dude, if they get rid of Elon, I'll turn into one of the biggest Tesla fanboys you'd ever seen. Oh, and don't get me wrong, or don't get me started about all the safety issues that they've been having too. Like, people's Teslas have just been randomly disengaging the parking brake, literally sitting there while they're plugged in charging too. That's insane. That is insane. I have never had a car just randomly disengage its parking brake, let alone one that, like, computer controlled disabled its parking brake. Like, there was logic that was bugged in there that disengaged it. There's videos of it, and you can see like what's his name, Rob Spaghetti, the fancy rental car guy on YouTube. He has a video of his Tesla, I think like 2 different instances. After, like, within minutes of him getting home and parking it and plugging it into the charger, you see it just start to roll down his driveway, and literally rip his charge port off his house. And these aren't old Teslas either. These are like relatively new Teslas. Don't get me started about the Cybertruck either. I mean, these are all things that I would expect a first-time automaker, a small name, just getting started automaker to have issues with. Not one of the biggest names in the industry. By now they should have their stuff figured out, but I don't feel safe putting my family in one of their cars anytime soon. I feel safer putting him in my 35-year-old death trap from Japan. But that's why I got my wife the Volvo. You can't get much better than a Volvo in terms of safety features. It was the parking brake. The parking brake released, which is what let it slide on the ice. So he had it in park, and he had the parking brake on. And what happened was the parking brake disengaged, but the car was still in park. So what you saw was the car being in park and not letting those wheels move, but the parking brake disengaging and letting those wheels move. So the two, if I'm not mistaken, and I might have this backwards, and you might be right, but one of the two, the car was parked and charging, and they just disengaged and decided to start sliding down the hill with two of the wheels fully unlocked. And that is just crazy. That is kind of scary. Did they ever figure out if that was like a mechanical issue or something? What about the Roadster? Dude, what about the Roadster? What Roadster? Right now, the Roadster's as good as vaporware to me. The Tesla's parking brake doesn't lock the front wheels ever. It only acts on the rear wheels. That's interesting. That's interesting. So there's basically no way to lock the front wheels at all. Quite different to, most cars where they're front wheel drive, and when you put it in park, the transmission is going to lock the front wheels. And then your parking or emergency brake tends to only have an effect on your rear wheels. So you've got all four wheels technically locked in place that way. It kind of makes sense with the Teslas, though, because they don't have
I'm having trouble connecting to
they don't have a transmission, so they don't have a mechanism necessarily in the same sense to lock the wheels the same way. But that, you still need something. Show me those volume buttons. I want to see them volume buttons. It seems a pretty big oversight. Again, to what I was saying earlier, these are mistakes that you would expect a small first-time car company to make, not one of the biggest automakers in the world, supposedly.
I'm having trouble connecting.
But, stay safe out there, folks. I guess, chalk your Tesla. Chalk your wheels. So, here we have Erica. Oh, no, actually, we're skipping here. Gary is up next here. And then we are going to work on Erica's HomePod. And that, I think, might be it for today. Let's see here. 3515. Let's let them know they're up next. Oh, okay. I was wondering what was going on there, Marvin. Oof. Alright. Gary, no lights, no power, a couple of watts from the wall. That looks like the usual bed diode. Here we go. dash you some food. Oof, man, I could use some food myself. Peanut butter on saltines. That's good. Stick a banana slice on it. You're set. What is the most surprising fix ever? Like actual bugs or too much dog fur? The most surprising fix is gonna have to be the ability to restore the software on these over USB with our custom adapter. You know, many of these over the years, be it from a software issue or a hardware issue, they end up with like blinking volume buttons and they don't do anything else, or they're boot looping or what have you. And for the longest time it was thought that there was no way to restore the software on these. So if it did get a software issue, presumably, there was no way to restore it. You were SOL. So for us to be able to come along and figure out how to gain USB access and create a custom firmware file that is restorable, and the tools to actually, the software tools to push that firmware to the HomePod. Because, once you got the restore firmware, you can't just open up Finder and then click restore. You have to use extra special software to push that firmware to it. So for us to have been able to get all that far and for it to work is incredible, because it proves that Apple could have been doing the same thing at their stores instead of telling their customers that they have to buy a new one for a software issue. That's like someone coming in with their iPhone or MacBook and being told that they need to buy a new one, even though literally plugging it in and clicking restore would fix their problems. Blows my mind. Now, to be clear, I don't take credit for figuring any of that out. All that credit goes to Mr. David Risk and the legend Tim Starr. Between those two, they came up with the USB adapter and the scripts and tools in order to do any of that. All I did was I gave them a couple of broken HomePods. I tested some of their work, helped them get it to a point where we could make a wide release and not have people bugging us all the time about issues. And then I anytime a new update comes out, for example, Apple just pushed 18.4 out. No sense bugging those guys to rebuild the new version. I've figured it out by now, so I maintain the latest versions as Apple pushes them out so people can keep restoring these, because you can't push old firmware to these. You have to push the version that Apple signs and sanctions. So whenever Apple pushes updates out, that means that I've got to rebuild the restore firmware for everyone. And I've got the steps so you can do it yourself, but it takes a fair bit more effort to get set up than it does to just restore them. I will take credit for redesigning Tim Starr's adapter and making it what it is today. Something a little more usable and robust than what we had at the start. Good enough that you can connect it and just leave it plugged in all the time for some other surprise features that we found. For example, I accidentally found out that you can connect the first gen to your Mac via USB and use it as a local speaker output. doesn't use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or anything. It's purely all over the USB cable. Go figure. I mean, it must have been some kind of internal testing feature for Apple. They never intended for customers to be able to do it. But it's a very neat nonetheless. Like, for example, I've got a HomePod that I take with me whenever I travel, and instead of having to expose it to everyone with a password or join it to the hotel Wi-Fi or something, I can just dock it to my MacBook, and I'm good to go. Yeah, that is a lot better. That is a little bit better. You can't use stereo pair with USB. You're limited to, and that's a Mac OS limitation, right? Like, you can't output to multiple sources natively with Mac OS anyways. Now, there is third-party software out there that lets you output to multiple AirPlay sources, and the USB HomePod, it'll let you do that in conjunction with your other AirPlay 2 speakers. So there are workarounds, but nothing native. Airfoil is the way to go. Airfoil is my favorite. Very good, very nice. Our signature maintenance completed. And by that I mean we've replaced our DC filters. They love to go bad and cause death farts and all sorts of base issues. Here we have our actual problem. This is our dead diode for no reason other than a bad batch of them floating around out there, so a new one will prevent the same problem from happening again. What percentage got the bad diode? I couldn't even give you an educated guess, unfortunately, because we only know as many as we get sent in, and who knows how many are actually out there that never get sent to us, that got thrown away, traded into Apple, forgotten about, what have you. It's really hard to say. But based on what I've seen, which is going to be a very biased perspective, you know, people are only going to send us broken ones. Very rarely do we get people sending us ones that work just fine to maintain. But it's, you know, I'd have to say roughly half of them out there are going to have the same diode inside waiting to fail. It's only a matter of time. And these diodes shouldn't be failing like this. They should be failing as a protection diode, not on their own due to a quality control issue. This is abnormal. But on the flip side, I kind of can't help but think maybe it's significantly less. Maybe only 1 out of every 10. Maybe 1 out of every 100 or 1,000. Maybe it's less than 0.1% of all the units ever sold. Maybe, even within the same date range of diodes that we know fail, maybe it's not all of them within the same batch that are actually bad. Maybe it's only a certain ones within that particular batch that actually go bad. So to give an educated guess would be, well, we can't give an educated guess. Not enough info. But that's the best answer I can give you. Almost forgot the rest of the amp screws. Glad we didn't. Does the diode fail with more use? Kinda technically, yeah. The diode most often fails when you're first turning it on, when it's restarting, or most particularly during updates or setup and configuration. Because those tend to pull a lot of data. They tend to do a lot of reads and writes. So the NAND, the storage chips, using a lot of power. The CPU's doing a lot of things, thinking about it, using a lot of power. And that's usually when those diodes, that's usually when they pop. There's a couple of screws underneath the power supply that I didn't put in that we need to get to here really quick. There it is. Yeah, it's not often I catch the amp screws that I forgot to put back in before I get it all the way back together. Usually I get the thing all the way back together and then I see half the amp screws still sitting there and I go, oh, well, time to go back apart. Not today. What caps and diode did we solder? For the capacitors, they are 50 volt, 10% tolerance, 10 microfarad, size 1206. With an X7R temperature rating, of course. Obligatory. As DC filters. For the Schottky diode, the original is a PDS 560-13, which is a 60 volt 5 amp Schottky diode, and we replace it with PDS 760Q-13, which is a 60 volt 7 amp Schottky diode that is also held to higher manufacturing standards than the original version. Made more for medical and automotive use, reliability terms. So, there's no chance that the replacement diode fails again. There's a million other reasons for the HomePod to have an issue before that diode fails. The filters, however, they're going to go bad naturally. All ceramic capacitors naturally age over time and decay. But that shouldn't happen for these for 10, 15 plus years at least. And by then, hopefully, they'll just give it to us. Everybody will just give me their unwanted HomePods. Apple will put out something that everybody wants to replace their first-gen HomePods with, and no one will want to keep their first-gen HomePods anymore, and they'll give them all to Nick. And then I can finally live the dream of 500 HomePods. And then I'll move to Base Island, and I'll have my 500 HomePods on Base Island. And then all of the filters will go bad all at once, and I'll have 500 farting HomePods on an island. Can you imagine 500 HomePods on an island all death farting all at the same time? That might bring, like, an extinction level event. You guys can help me get there. I can't do it by myself. I need your HomePods. Give me your HomePods. Is the 10% variance... oh, that's the voltage. I wasn't aware of a... as far as I know, Mouser and DigiKey do not sell their components based on any size tolerances. The tolerances are purely for voltage, at least for MLCC ceramic caps. Yeah, 10% tolerance for the voltage rating. So, okay, can anybody explain to me why Apple made the Find My feature for the Siri remote so frustratingly useless? Like, all it's good for is telling me which room, if I'm in the same room as my remote. And it's like, it's here. And it's like, where's here? Where the hell is here, Apple? I have no idea where here is. I mean, good on them for finally putting Find My in the remote after waiting so long under the justification of, oh, well, nobody's ever gonna lose their Apple remote because the way we designed it, it won't slip between the couch cushions. And literally, guess where my remote ends up half the time? And the Find My feature on it is just so frustratingly useless. Like I said, it's as good as getting me into the same room, and that's about it. And they're going to come out with a new Apple TV and a new Siri remote that's going to have a better Find My feature, and that's going to be the reason to upgrade, of course. Make me CEO of Apple. I'll turn you guys around, and I'll just... You don't even have to pay me. Just pay me in HomePods. Pay me in HomePods and stocks. How about that? The Find My feature on the Apple TV remote is about as useful as my wife sitting there and telling me, there, it's there, it's there. And she's not pointing at anything, she's just saying it's over there. It's like, where's there? Tim's probably getting ready to kick back. Everyone go tell Tim to make me the next CEO. Like, I'm about to go back to the Apple remote case that had the AirTag built in, because that was far more useful than what they did to it now. Man, they really missed it. Well, we didn't miss this No Power Repaired for Gary, and that is actually all the time and energy that I've got for here and now. We're gonna stop here before I hurt myself or someone else's HomePod. And we're going to pick back up tomorrow with Erica, Patrick, and a couple of 3553's HomePods. Of course, we've got a couple other ones that are waiting on some logic boards too, but all in due time. Folks, I hope you all enjoyed this live stream repair.
I'm happy.
And I hope to catch you in the next one. Goodbye.